In the test of the great bow and death at the palace, Odysseus is finally home and he needs to prove that he is worthy to take back his kingdom. The narrative focus for this one is on mood and characterization. And so you will be able to use annotation to help you make meaning from poetry, explain the connotation or implied meaning of the highlighted diction to help you better understand the character, describe how Homer develops a mood through rich connotative words, and identify character traits by citing evidence from the text. So story 12, the 12th story we are reading is The Test of the Great Bow, which is book 21 in the actual epic tale. And you have 4 steps for this particular story. First of all, just to read the piece through once, and if you can read it aloud, it really does help. Then step 2 is to look at the highlighted words and write the connotation or implied meaning of the word in the column on the right. It's not the definition, it's the suggested meaning of that word or feeling of that word as it stands in the sentence in the piece. So let me show you what to do for step 2 first. So when you scroll down and you see the story begin, you will see that there are some words that are already highlighted for you. You're going to do this for each of the highlighted words, what I'm about to show you. So you've got a number of them that you need to handle. So for each of those highlighted words, what you're going to do is you're going to tell me the implied connotation of that word. So I'm going to write for bellow, it says, the fine doors, as the key struck home, began to bellow as a bull at pasture bellows. So I put that when I think of bellow, I think of something really loud and booming. And since the doors are making a bellowing sound, I imagine them to be large and wooden. So this is my implied connotation of the word bellow. And then the next one that you will do is sobbing and so on and so forth. So you, instead of making a comment for these, you actually will be filling in your answers here on the right-hand side. So for the next one, you'll just press return, and then you'll start with sobbing close to where sobbing is on the left. Then you'll press return and you'll do deadly close to the one on the left, and so on and so forth, all the way down through the whole piece. Let's go back to step 3. So step 3 is to answer the question at the end that asks you to look at your highlighted words and their connotations and make an inference about the overall mood of this piece. So when we get all the way to the end, I will show you this. Step 4 is to highlight in blue 2 instances of clear characterization of Penelope and explain what you learn about her in this story. So you actually will find a spot, you will highlight it, and on the right-hand side, explain what you learn about her in the story at that moment. So this whole first part, Penelope begins the piece, but Odysseus is disguised still as a beggar, and he's going to do this test that has been put forth by his wife. So you're going to read through the piece, you're going to do your highlighting, talk about the connotative meaning of the words in yellow. You're going to highlight in blue 2 moments where you find out characterization of Penelope. And when you get to the very, very bottom, then this is what you're going to do with it. So for the yellow ones, the question is, what is the overall mood for the test of the great bow? You've been doing this work all along, and the main reason that I want you to be identifying the mood and what words are used to create that mood is that when you turn around and write your narrative, you're going to have to pick the right words, the right diction to make a mood come across in your narrative. So we're just learning how to identify it now, and later on you will be writing about it or creating it yourself as an author. So then it says to choose at least 3 of your highlighted words to support your claim. Be sure to include their connotation and explain how that feeling contributes to the mood. Use the template below to model academic writing. Please fill in the blanks and add or subtract any words that you like. So it will say something like this. In the test of the great bow, Homer uses words like, and they're going to pick 3 words that you highlighted in yellow to create a, and then you'll tell me what kind of mood. This should be blue. For example, when he uses the word blank, and you can use one of these words that you have up here, in line, and tell me what line it comes from, he creates a feeling of, and you're going to explain the feeling. This contributes to the mood because, and you'll explain why. Then you'll choose another word. In addition, when he uses the word blank in line blank, he creates a feeling of, and you'll explain the connotation. This word contributes to the mood because, finally, in line, and here's your third word, Homer uses the word here, which has the connotation of, and this contributes to the mood. So basically you have word number 1, which goes here, word number 2, which goes here, and word number 3, which goes down here. So you only have to pick 3 of the highlighted words to write about. Then you're going to go back to the highlights that you made in blue and answer this question. What have you learned about Penelope as a character? Based on the 2 highlights you made in blue that showed characterization of Penelope, explain what you learned about her in the story. And then you're going to finish this sentence. In the Test of the Great Bow, Homer uses the phrase, and you'll tell me one of the highlighted parts, to characterize Penelope. This shows her as a blank kind of person. Homer also develops a character using the phrase, and you'll tell me your second highlighted phrase, which shows her as a blank kind of person. Super simple. When you're done with that one, the Test of the Great Bow, you're going to move on to the 13th story we are reading, which is Death at the Palace, and this comes from book 22 out of 24. We're getting very close to the end. Remember, there's only 24 stories, so the next time that we read, we are going to be the second to the last story. So step 1 is to read the piece through once, and read it aloud is my suggestion as always. Step 2, as you read Homer's Death at the Palace, examine the diction and detail used to create the mood. Sound familiar? So you're going to use words in this final showdown. Highlight in green the words or phrases that give the reader a good sense of dramatic action, intensity, and mood. So you're looking for anything that makes this scene really intense. It's called Death at the Palace. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of action going on here. This is the part where he goes after all these suitors who have been making his wife so uncomfortable for so long, and he is seeking revenge on them. So it is not for the faint of heart. So you are highlighting words that give the reader a good sense of dramatic action, intensity, and mood. Step 3, answer the question at the end that asks you to look at your highlighted words and their connotations and make an inference about the overall mood of the piece. And lastly, highlight in blue 2 instances of clear characterization of Odysseus and Zeus and explain what you learn about them in this story. You only have to do 1 for Odysseus and 1 for Zeus. You are welcome to do more than that, but you will only be required to write about 1 for Odysseus and 1 for Zeus at the very end. So keep that in mind. Also notice I'm not asking you to make a comment about what you highlight in green. When you're done, I'm going to ask you to write about it, but I'm not going to ask you to write about it as you go. So, and then a lot of people really like to watch these clips, part 1 and part 2. These are clips from the film version, and it does help you kind of enlighten what's happening. You can see this is not going to be, just from the photo. I'm sorry, not the photo, but from the painting, you're going to see that this is definitely a scene of revenge. So you'll read through the whole part. You're going to highlight in green all of the things that add to that intensity, add to the mood, add to that dramatic action all the way throughout. But you're not commenting. You're just doing the green part, and you're highlighting in blue what you found out about Odysseus and Zeus. And here are your post-reading questions. Very similar to what you had to do for the Test of the Great Bow. What is the overall mood for Death at the Palace? Choose at least 3 of your highlighted words to support your claim. Be sure to include their connotation and explain how that feeling contributes to the mood. Use the template below to model academic writing, and please fill in the blanks and or add or subtract any words you like. So just like before, you have to have at least 3 words to write about, and then you're going to talk about what each of those words, how they contribute to the overall mood. And you have to come up with a word for your mood for this whole entire passage. And those 3 words should actually show that it's that kind of a mood, or connote or give a connotation of that kind of mood, so that you can write about it when you get to the heart of the paragraph. Then you're going to talk about Odysseus and Zeus. What have you learned about Odysseus and Zeus as characters? Based on the highlights you made in blue that show characterization of them, explain what you learned about them in the story. And so you're going to do your first one about Odysseus, and you're going to do the second one about Zeus. And that will be it. And then at that point, the next time that we meet, we're going to talk about his reuniting with his wife and how difficult that is. The reuniting where they actually know who one another are, not when it was secret to one of them. So please make sure, as always, to reach out if you have any questions about what you're working on. Good luck, enjoy these 2 stories, and I will see you next class.